Good morning, good morning. Thank you all for joining us this morning again. Once again, we welcome Coffee and Pan Dulce show today. And we are waiting for our co-guest, our special guest.
Special guest.
Our special guest.
I just realized my hair looked terrible.
Welcome, a special guest.
Thank you.
I think we need to raise the production values. You need to take care of your hair before you sit down.
I know.
Like the rest of us.
I should have checked my hair before.
You should do some highlights.
So, welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce today. I'm going to take charge because Chris Cano has confessed that he talks a little too much. So we are going to impose some discipline on him like you've never seen in a webcast before. But here we are, Wednesday, May 15th, the day after the Republican primaries, the week of trade wars around the world and exploding social media. So we're going to talk about those three topics today. And first of all, I'd like to introduce our guest that you all know. Just tell us what you were doing the last couple days.
Why don't we hush Pandora or Alexa or somebody?
I can
It's
do
not
that.
as easy as think, is it?
Alexa, pipe down. That's how I do it with my teenagers. But then my teenagers fight back, just like Alexa. Alexa is clearly modeled on teenage behavior. Oh, right, yeah.
Do you want me to stop?
Would you spank that teenager?
That's what.
Why don't we just lower the volume?
Alexa, stop. There you go.
Okay, now that Alexa is behaving and the NSA is no longer sucking up all of this information that we're putting out there in the ether, we can begin our show. Ruth, tell us what you've done the last day or so. I've seen a lot of pictures of you on social media. Going places, doing things, meeting people, being active.
Yes,
Tell us about
that's
your activities.
how we as community advocate do. I've been around differently all this weekend, especially for Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day, all. And yesterday I had my show. You know, I have Espacio Latino in Spanish, which you need to come and speak in Spanish.
Every Tuesday.
Y'all better learn Spanish.
Every Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
Yes. From 12 to 1. So yesterday we honored the mothers, and we had two women that were warriors. There are warriors, young kids, young girls having kids with a lot of issues, and they overpass. You know, one leukemia, the other one, it's I can't remember, Malaysia gravis, some disorder. Yes, some disorder, and
usually he would be here
grounded.
correcting us. So
You're grounded.
Yes, okay.
But anyways, I've been involved. But
Pronunciation.
and today I'm going after our show to our Latin Chamber of Commerce for our luncheon to hear our mayor's speech. She'll be the keynote speaker.
Interesting.
So now we'll turn it over to our resident mansplainer.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Cano. I am not leading the show today because
He's in the penalty box.
There's been a coup, and
that was without my vote.
That's right. That's right. So it was a 2-0 vote. We both voted against me.
I'm a take
They
charge
just
guy.
spin the coin.
But yeah, I hope. As Ruth said, I hope everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day this last Mother's Day, and that's it for me.
So where were you last couple of days? I saw a picture of you with your hat. You were out at Matt's thing.
Yeah, we
especially last night.
Last night I went to the Moms Demand Action meeting, which was a lot of people there because of the recent shootings at UNCC, Charlotte Strong, and it was a very big group of people, and half the people there were new members or new participants for Moms Demand Action. And then after that, I went to the Matthew Rodenhauer's event to watch the results of the party.
The results of the primary.
The primary, that's right. Yeah, so I was there. There were a couple of other, once again, yes, Matthew is a Republican, but he's a neighbor. And we were there to thank him for running, and unfortunately he did not win.
Right.
So, yeah, that's where we were at last night.
Well, that's what we call a team.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And
I like Matt personally, and I've donated to his campaigns in the past, but I do have a little bit of a rivalry with him because he does claim to be partly libertarian. And
I heard that last night.
There are many Republicans who believe he is. A libertarian Republican, which I feel is a little bit more of an oxymoron.
Well, doesn't
nevertheless, I congratulate him for getting the endorsements of both Rand Paul and Ron Paul. Mm-hmm. So
you have one that feels libertarian as well, and he's a
that's true. There's a lot of
is that a moron also?
No.
That's a moron.
There is some overlap, and Chris and I have been over and over this with the Democratic Party platform, the Libertarian Party platform. There's a lot of overlap, especially with regard to drugs and immigration and some of the
rights,
LGBT rights. So a lot of hot button issues.
Abortion.
The abortion.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So
differences. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So Matthew ran a dignified race.
Sure did.
I think. Before we get to the topic of the District 9 race, though, I do want to talk a little bit about what what's going on in social media, because Chris and I and Ruth, we've had conversations about social media strategies for candidates, social media strategies for parties, and what the limits are. And we know, just jumping ahead here, the Dan Bishop won, but he's already in a little bit of hot water, or let's just say he's receiving some negative feedback on an investment he made in a platform called Gab. And I don't know how much money was invested. I know that from the sound of it, from what I've read, he was frustrated by conservatives losing their voices. As we know, Alex Jones, a very prominent InfoWars guy, got bounced, and there are other people getting bounced from different platforms. So there seems to be kind of a squeeze on, and when he made that investment, I think I don't know what his motivation was, but let's go. Tell us about your thoughts on what you think that is happening in the social media world, the squeezing, and then first.
Ruth usually.
I don't want to get benched next week.
We should have.
It's not easy as it is. It's not easy as it seems, does it?
Yeah,
Do you need a script?
Hi, Tara.
I got the structure in my head.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, I have to have it written down. So all right.
We're learning. Let's see.
Right.
So, but my head isn't always clear.
Watch, I'm gonna do a poll.
Okay.
Sometimes I misfile stuff in my own head.
Exactly.
Just shake your head up.
Yeah. But we do need our morning salute again.
This is bizarre being in the seat because I can actually eat.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Salute, Tara. I know you're watching us. Good morning.
So we are being, I guess we should say, while we're talking about social media, that we are on Facebook Live, and we're also on YouTube.
Hi, Juan.
And is there a third channel?
We have two coffee up on the
two
channels in coffee.
Yeah, one of them is a kind of a behind the scenes kind of stuff with these cameras that you can see like the behind the scenes stuff, and then there's the
my producer from my Spanish. He's saying hi to everybody,
hey,
and y'all have a great program.
Thank you. We need a director.
So then let's talk a little bit about. We don't necessarily need to talk about our show and the way that we do things here, because it's pretty clear what our structure is. But they're going to be political figures and news figures, and they're going to be certainly controversial. They're going to have controversial views, and they may lose their access. Certainly, the organization WikiLeaks, for example, was starting to lose their access to the financial system back in 2010, and they've been increasing. There's been increasing pressure on them to get their message out. Julian Assange is in horrible prison at Belmarsh in Britain, and so to Julian, hope you stay alive. So, Chris, I won't ask you while you've got a mouthful of bagel, but maybe
it is great to be able to eat on the show. I've never done this in 20-something weeks.
So, Chris and I were talking earlier just about trolling. I go to the candidates' pages, certainly Dan Bishop's, and certainly and Matt's to a certain extent, and then also Dan McCready's.
I was gonna just say that.
Yeah. And I just make, sometimes I ask very sensible questions which nobody answers, but sometimes I just have to make remarks like, why do you always wear a blue shirt? Here I am, I'm wearing a kind of a teal shirt today to distinguish myself. But what do you think about that? I mean, they're candidate space. It's not like a sacred space. You can go on there and you can rattle people.
I think in our country we have lost respect from each other, and I believe that social media is just a tool, a game piece. I see my boy playing Xbox every day, so that's the way I see it. Now, it all depends how the other side of the person takes it.
Yeah.
Either it could help to motivate and make you stronger and make you do better, or it will just stick you into a wall against the corner and stay there. So,
and I know some people who can't control themselves in that space because once they've got the anonymity, they simply can't be civil with people and they overreact and.
But those are people, Jeff. Not gonna. Sorry to interrupt you. But those are people. If you notice, those of us who run campaigns and have had to delete people or respond to people. You shouldn't respond to people, and I've made the mistake of responding to people. But
I ignore.
I mean that's really what you have to do. You let them say their piece. But usually, in my rule of thumb is usually if you have someone who is posting things that are angry, they're usually people that are pretty angry in their own lives. It doesn't take a psychologist to realize most of those people, you click on their profile and they're usually bitching angry about something else, and they're just angry people.
And they're Mr. Grinch.
I mean, they're not very happy. They're always looking for jobs. They're asking you to pray for them for this. They're angry. They're just very angry people. There are people who are just motivated by just being angry all the time. And so social media is a great thing for them because in many ways and I think it's almost therapy for them to get that anger out. Now, it makes them look kind of silly, but but that doesn't mean that there are not good people that we would want to sit down and talk to because they usually clean up when they're around us. But when they get onto their social media pages, they're the misfits. But
it is, I agree that
I do agree with you and everything, but I think that if you have decided to have them in your social network, did you kind of learn how to respect your decision?
That's what's
the
funny.
way we respect theirs.
Well, that's what's so to me that's what's so hilarious, and we have these conversations all the time. Is Facebook and social media is not free speech.
No.
The Constitution does not give you the right to say whatever you want to say on my page. You can say whatever you want to say on your page. And if you read something on my page, whether it's a campaign page, whether it's our Coffee and Pandusa page, whether it's my personal page, if you don't like it, I don't give a shit.
But it's in my page.
It's on my page.
That's right.
So for you to try to give me a lecture on my page speaks more to your mental state. Because all you have to do is block. You don't have to follow me. So why would you put yourself through the abuse of watching stuff you hate? That's why I say there's something mentally wrong with those people, but I don't think it's just us noticing that. They probably have other family members that have blocked them before. So
I heard this morning at Good Morning America that Facebook is going to start blocking you for, I think, a period of 30 days. If they have not released the guidelines, but if you go beyond the rules about talking about politics and hate and government and anything that you say negative about that, you'll get blocked.
So I think their philosophy is, from what I'm picking up from the guy at Twitter, Jack, and some of the other messages I've heard, is that they do want to create, let's call it, better conversations, right? And I understand that as a, I've moderated financial market panels. I've also been a moderator for different groups, online financial groups and things like that. And so, again, this problem of people being anonymous and not having sort of the normal human courtesies that you and I would have when we're face to face is a big problem. So how do you rein that in? Do you put people in the penalty box? And I know people who've been somewhat chagrined to say I've been thrown in the penalty box. They kicked me off for a while, but I'm back now and I'm slightly better behaved and I'll try not to say it. Yeah,
but Jeff, one of the things that I think I hope people understand is, because I try to see what is, even though all that stuff is annoying and it does kind of get to you, no matter who you are, you can be the most popular person as far as social media wise, and it's still, when you see your name on there, Christian Cano is an idiot, or whatever.
I'll take that down.
Yeah, please do, because I've got that blocked in my words, by the way. When you do see that, it touches, but at the same time, you have to put things in perspective. You have to understand that social media is not the real world. And there are a lot of people that are so engulfed in it that it has become reality for them.
Yeah,
that is
a problem.
The danger, it's become reality.
Right.
And a lot of them, I will say, if you look at the people that post the negative stuff, or at least I can say unscientifically, the people that troll me are usually white women, married,
bless your heart,
between 35 and 55, or they're gay, white.
Bless your heart, are you around here today?
Yes, she is. She is. And what I have concluded, and I know this is just my own, and then I usually hide them, block them, or whatever, and they're just so obsessed with me for some reason.
They'll use some other.
They'll change their names.
Maybe they're just using you to get to me.
That might be. No. I have thought about that. I thought, what is the obsession? So then what I do, because we do our research before we block someone, and so you look at some of the posts and they've done with other things. They're usually having problems with their husbands or someone else,
or they'd be kicked out of the society.
And so they're usually probably So
people
there's a demographic there that are just angry. We've got a precinct chair lady in this area that just
people just say so much stuff personally. Let's not stick in here.
Let's just roll that back a little bit because a lot of people use it as a means of reaching out.
And they're asking for help.
They are asking for help in a very indirect way. So sometimes, I've had interactions on my campaign page where people say, "You're just a blah 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 blah." And so I get a lot of hate on my campaign page too. But I actually try to respond and tell people, "Can you clean up your act? Do you have a serious question? Hope you're drinking local beer while you're doing that." Whatever the case is, and that is one way to meet people. Because let's face it, a lot of us are connected to this thing, and we're communicating through this. And sometimes there's some days when I'm communicating with my teenage daughter more through this than I am with her directly, right? And that's a reality, but it's a problem, and we all need to get over it.
Can I say something that's really funny? Because I'm
the funny one. You're the funny guy today. That's right.
That's right. I'm the funny one. Matthew Ridenhour got some flack from the Observer's op-ed opinion board about him saying something. I really didn't understand what they said about Matthew. It was a very short bleep, but Matthew, who was county commission, but then it said something, but has said some things that didn't disagree with people. I'm not sure exactly what they were going with that. I don't know if it was because he was pandering to the base as far as the hugging the flag with Trump and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was funny. Was it smart politics? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know. Politics? I think they're all pandering to the base.
Well, of course they are. But it was funny. So it was hilarious that Matthew, of all the people, and I think it was because there are so many Democrats that like Matthew, and that some of them had gotten disappointed when he decided to run because he decided to run to the base. Well, that's what he's doing.
That's right.
And they wanted him to be more like Dan McCready, I guess. That's what I think they wanted.
Very fuzzy around the edges. Basically a nice guy. And dresses up nice.
He wears the same shirt all the time. So Matthew's not like that. Matthew's a smart guy. He's professional. He's been tested as an elected official. So he doesn't have to play that game.
He has that experience already.
Other people. So there were people posting on probably the same trolls that troll me, troll you, or whoever, were posting stuff about you know, I can't believe you're posting this, and, you know, kind of, and it was so funny because anybody who knows anything about marketing or social media, especially for campaigns, knows that bad trolls and posting is better than good postings. You want the guys to call you the idiot and stuff because the algorithms jump and it pops your page to something higher. So all these people were posting stuff on Matthew's page, and they had to go back and look at his other stuff. They were posting, and his campaign I thought was hilarious because we all say this behind the scenes, but his campaign actually said, I don't know if you understand, I'm paraphrasing him, every time you do this, the reason they posted that picture of AOC saying, explain to her in one word, they thought it backfired on him. It actually benefited him because all of those people that posted things about AOC made the algorithms go up for him. And his campaign said, we do this so that way.
That's right. That's right.
They were being played. And they're so stupid they don't even know they're being played.
Okay, so so we know that.
Bless their hearts.
So we know that clickbait. We know that putting stuff out there that gets a hot reaction, that makes people go, I'm gonna react to this, is a successful strategy, right? And the major media companies clearly know this, and that's why some people have stopped trusting a lot of the political news that we read about today, because it's all about baiting people because they know the formula. If AOC said the world is going to end in 12 years, that's the formula. If the Covington kid smirks, you know, that's the formula. So we often feel like we're being manipulated by those types of images. And there used to be that, you know, the news cycle was a little different when we were growing up. And I think young people today don't understand that there was this little waiting period. You might hear something on the radio or on the news in the evening, you kind of settle in, you talk about it at a dinner table, and then there would be a follow-up story the next day. So it wasn't so instantaneous. I'm not saying there was never any clickbait or hair on fire stories, but the way that the cycle worked was different, and we're all getting accustomed to a different way of absorbing information about the world.
I have a question, Jeff, because I've had to kind of examine how I use social media, because it's changed since 2016 to today, and it will continue to evolve and change. You never want to go, I don't ever want to go as far as Trump, because I think that's so extreme. That's the kind that we should get away with. But you also don't want to be as clueless as Dan McCready, who just doesn't do anything.
Well, it's like a Hallmark.
It's like, you know,
the Hallmark card tweet machine.
Exactly. So it's just for people who are in his office to like okay, I'm posting something, everybody like just because as if though that makes him whatever. But you know, I got into social media in 2009 when my niece asked me to follow her on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
That's when I first got onto Facebook. As soon as I got onto Facebook, she got off of Facebook. And she went into Twitter, Snapchat, I believe, Instagram, I believe. Instagram, and then to Snapchat. And so so I have always followed my niece. Okay? And then I noticed during that time period that when I got on it, then my aunts started to get on it, and then my people, my generation and older, started to get on it. And so we came on when they all left. Okay?
That's true.
So
that's the way it is
now. So social media was not meant for us.
No, it was meant for teenagers.
It was meant for teenagers.
Like MySpace.
Exactly. And so it was meant, and I think...
So it was meant for me too.
It was, The reason I'm saying that is because I think it's a generational misunderstanding of what social media is about. We are on social media now, and that demographic...
bombarding, everything that is going on.
We're trying to bring old courtesy and old ways of doing things
to what it was never meant to be. So social media was never meant to be, Dear Sally. It was meant to say, brother, what's going on this weekend? Look at my pitch. Hey! You know, that's what it was meant. But we're trying to make it fit. So when I see these angry white women that troll me, that get upset, honey, it was not meant for us. It was meant for your kids. And it was meant to be like we're sitting at a bar and you're going, hey, look at that game. It's meant to talk, slang, LOL, SMH. Yeah. It was meant to talk like that. Yeah. And so it was never meant for us. And that's one of the reasons I think there's this misunderstanding and frustration. So when you get that, and I didn't get that until probably 2017, maybe. Oh, Lord. Once you get it, then you can take advantage of it. Yeah. Because those demographics that we're trying to stimulate, you can stimulate them, you can control them. Yeah. And the Russians were able to do that.
Well,
we kind of skip a segment,
Let me call Vlad.
Y'all know we skip something, right?
What did we skip?
Our buttons.
Oh,
well.
It's his show.
Let's wrap up this topic, social media topic. Then we'll go into the District 9 race.
Girl, when it's your show, you can do it the way you.
But we're going to take a little break to look at our buttons. This is a commercial break. Looking at the buttons. Ruth, could you please tell us where your button is?
I am wearing my imaginary button this morning since I left it at home, which I stole from here.
You look very nice.
It is, thank you.
Can you go to jail for an imaginary theft?
Mm-hmm. No, I did steal it. I did take it to my house. And I didn't bring it back. But it's a beautiful button. It's called Mom on Demands. That will be my imaginary button today since I don't have it physically. Because I am very, very concerned about the new House bills that are coming up about raising up 5% of our teachers' pay for wearing
attached to having a gun.
A gun. Yeah. So we need to take this kind of bill seriously. If you're a parent, and even though if you're not a parent, if you really care for this country, let's make conscious and let's take care of these bills and make sure that if you're going to vote for something that will benefit everyone, not just a certain of white people that are privileged to carry guns. Please.
Okay. Chris, can you tell us about your buttons?
Yes, because the primary is over, and I'm sure you'll be talking about that. We have 4 candidates that we have to choose from. My family, once again, just like we have every year, we will make a decision who we endorse for the congressional race. This is we do every race that impacts my family. I am a proud Democrat, even though some people say not in good standing. Whatever. I'm also I'm a member of the Progressive Caucus, so I've never been kicked out. You can't kick anybody out of the Democratic Party, so whoever tells you that is just crazy. I will endorse, or my family will sit down and do our due diligence. We'll reset, and we will endorse whoever embraces the majority of what the platform is for my party. If it is Dan McCready, then that is who we will endorse. If it is Jeff Scott, that's who are Dan Bishop or Alan.
Alan, who will be here next Wednesday.
Yeah, we have a list of issues that are very important. They haven't changed. They've tweaked a little bit. And whoever is closest to that, we will endorse that individual. So that's what my button is about.
My buttons are no BS. And I think it's very important to keep your eye on the ball and think about facts and think about what we were just talking about, the news cycle and setting your hair on fire and falling for clickbait and sort of being patient to try to understand things. I'm mansplaining, okay? And then the other one is Stop Torture Now, and that just...
you didn't comb your hair either this morning.
No, you're violating this button. You're torturing me on camera in front of people by telling people my hair doesn't look right. That's so cruel. I can't believe you. I'm going to report you.
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. Okay. So let's move on.
We still love you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's move on.
Let's move on to the primary race. The results came in last night. Dan Bishop clearly won. And I got an email from Gary Dunn this morning, who got, I think, a very low vote count. I think less than 1%, maybe 75 or 100 votes, and he said he expects to do a lot better at his funeral, where he will have about 240 people because he will be serving food and liquor, and he'll have a band.
That's funny.
So Gary, brother, you rock. That was the best response.
That is funny.
I don't know.
I tweeted it out this morning.
Do we have the right to request a recount?
Well,
Since I'm not that seat,
okay,
I'm not going to
so
make the
let me
jokes that I would normally make.
let me just say that Dan
Recount.
Bishop, Dan Bishop won very decisively.
He did. Mm-hmm.
And Stoney came in second.
And Matt came in
Third.
third.
In third, and then I think Lee Brown got about 7%, and the others.
Brown, that really surprised me.
No, it didn't surprise me because I was so proud of. I know a lot of people knock the people that were in this race, but these candidates, I was very impressed. They were the first Republican field that came out against big money.
No, yeah.
All of them came out against the $1 million that Lee Brown had from the PAC.
Yeah.
And they all, and usually you see that on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
And so I was very impressed that they all ran on a platform of let's take big money, special interest. I don't know, they all have their own little special interests as well.
Right.
But and I thought that was great that the person who raised that big PAC $1 million didn't even come in the top 4, which means the Republicans were not interested in that anymore.
Well,
and that is
the other thing. The other thing going against her though was the fact that she didn't live in the district. Yeah. And
that didn't.
But she was the most mistake-free, gaffe-free, poised professional candidate. Even more than Dan. I mean, but she was really on message, on target. But Jeff, very good.
But Jeff, do you think? I mean, I guess you're right because she didn't live in the district. Do you think that we are seeing now this trend? And I think we saw it with. I think it all started with John Ossoff in Georgia, who raised the $20-something million and couldn't win the election. I went down there to campaign for John Ossoff. And I could tell when I canvassed, there was no interest in John Ossoff. You knocked on people's doors, they were like, oh, come on, let's just get rid of it. And I believe Dan McCready had the same mistake.
Yeah.
I hope that it's starting to prove to people, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, just because you raise a lot of money does not mean that you're a good candidate or does not mean you can win if you don't have a good message.
That's true. Well, my expectation, though, going forward, and tell me if you agree with this or not, but I do believe that Dan Bishop is not going to turn down big money.
No, I wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And and he does have the benefit of not being astroturf, know, of actually having some grassroots support here in his base. And just as a side point, if you go to my Jeff Scott for Congress Facebook page, you can see an essay that I wrote and put out yesterday on the
500 words
on the primary. It's about 500 words, and it was talking about the Republican primary and what I witnessed during the debates, and it's a critique of the positions that I strongly disagree with. Of course, I do have some agreements with them in other areas, as we talked about, whether it's with Matt or even Gary. But I made it a point to talk about the issues that I thought were most important, including this pro-life, pro-choice debate. They were really pandering to their base in a very shrill manner, which bothered me, and also on healthcare, women's issues, and certainly the issue of war, because they never talked about it. They tried to, they answered questions saying that they were fiscal conservatives, that they wanted to be disciplined on budgets and things, but they never talked about, the purpose of spending the money and whether we should be realistic in the world and what we can accomplish. So nobody is talking about the war issue. And so just to wrap up my summary of that, when Alan comes here, we're gonna talk about that, and we hope that people will ask questions about both the Green Party's views on what's going on in Venezuela and Iran, and also the party's views. And in some ways, I differ from people in the party. So we're both very independent-minded candidates on that issue.
So are we still on NCO9?
Yeah, we're talking about NCO9.
Okay, I just want to add something real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier about Dan Bishop's investment, and that might be a topic, or that might be something that McCready.
Right, that's a negative message that's being put out about him.
So I think, and you kind of mentioned it. I think the two things, and we saw this early on. The two things that McCready is going to go. We're going to have to call him by last name because Dan.
That's right. That's right. McCready Bishop.
Yeah. Okay. So McCready, I think the things that he's going to go after, or they've already started going after, is the fact that Bishop was the author of HB2.
Right.
That's one thing they're going to go after tremendously, and they're going to do that to try to give the impression that they're standing up for LGBT rights, even though McCready supported HB2.
Yeah.
He's just trying to not rip. He also supported Amendment 1. He's just trying to not let people realize that, and also that the investment, the social media page or whatever.
That's right.
Those are two things I think they're going to go after. I think Bishop wants them to go after those things strategically, because if I think it's going to be different than the Mark Harris type of thing. McCready goes after HB2 and the bathroom bill. Bishop can go back after him and say, well, you supported that too. Explain to your own party how you supported it. Or where were you? You're such a champion of LGBT rights. Or what? Where were you? Amendment 1. Where were you during Amendment 1? He belongs to a church that supported Amendment 1, whose pastor openly came out and supported. So McCready is going to stick himself into a situation, and and Bishop is smart enough to know, come after me with the investments.
Now,
if he goes after the investment thing, Bishop is going to say, let's take a look at investments.
That's
right. Let's look at your solar investments.
That's what I was going to comment on that. Do we start looking at each other's portfolios? You know,
and the reason I say that, because I'm not sure if today's your date as well. For those of us who are candidates or have been candidates, today, May 15th, is a big day. At the federal level, because you have to file your financial disclosures by today. Yes, and so every year you have to file it by a certain day. My date is today, and so is McCready's. His may be around this. The first time he ran, he didn't file his financial disclosures. He did like Robert Pittenger and delayed it 90 days because he didn't want to see people to look at where he gets his money. And I encourage people to go to Dan McCready. You can go to mine too if you want to see how poor I am. But you go to his page and you will see where he gets his money from, where his wife gets his money from, where they're hiding their money in trust so they don't pay taxes for their children. They're doing a lot of really sneaky stuff. Double Time, the company that he so-called founded. He has a political PAC, Dan McCready. So when Dan McCready says he doesn't expect any special interest money, because he actually has a special interest political PAC, so he doesn't have to accept money from outside individuals. But more importantly, I think it's important for people to see, if you want to look at people the way Bishop wants to, or McCready wants to do, look at Dan McCready. When he started to run in 2016, which he wanted to start running in 2016, didn't say anything. When he ran in 2018, he's actually made more money as a candidate, because as a candidate he's been using his kind of celebrityness to get people like Hugh McCall and other people to invest in this company, which is why they endorsed him. So I think it is going to be a very interesting election if you look into where Dan McCready gets his money, how much money he's made off of tax subsidies, why he donated to Republicans to stop the windmill project, because it would compete directly with the solar investment companies. There's a lot of stuff in there that I think.
I just want to make sure and see, and I would love to see at least one debate physically between each other, which I'm doubting.
Well,
I am completely doubting
so
they will show up and debate. Except I know Dan Bishop will. He doesn't have no problem facing you.
So I asked Dan Bishop face to face at the last debate a week ago whether he would debate, and he wouldn't commit to it. So the only candidate that committed to a debate was Stoney.
Oh wow!
And
that's interesting.
Yeah. So his campaign.
People.
I just all I can do. I mean, really, as a third party candidate, all Alan and I can do is try to persuade the traditional voter forums, the League of Women Voters. And let me finish my sentence here. All we can do is try to convince them that they need to get involved in this special election. So they're going to be doing forums coming up for city council members, and they're going to have their little dog and pony shows at Heist Brewery and things like that. Alan and I have to be included in that, and then obviously you can invite the two Dans. They won't show up, and we know why. Dan Bishop won't show up because he thinks they're all Democrats and he's under in the target, and we know why McCready won't show up because he's can't handle himself in that environment.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be in the room with me. So that's all we can do. We can appeal to traditional voter forums, and then try to. I don't know. Moral suasion doesn't really work against the corporate media and the people that are actually getting paid to provide election political clickbait, like we were talking.
I mean, technically,
their business models to provide that. I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Well, not only that. I mean, he probably didn't commit with you since he doesn't really believe in third party. He only believes in under his head. It's only two parties that he can fight against each other. So maybe he will have a debate with only McCready.
I think it. Well, no. I think it would be to. I think it would. The thinking is, and the strategy has been, or it was at least last time, and I can't see how it's going to change with the McCready people. The strategy is to keep Dan McCready away from people who can ask him questions. Only put him in front of his little select white group of individuals that can say, "Go Dan, thank you for your service," and then he sprinkles away,
and they'll throw him softballs.
And that's it. Keep him away from people who will say, "Why don't you believe transgenders should be in the military?
Why are we on the march to war with Iran?
Why do you support Donald Trump's ICE?" And quite honestly, Dan McCready, who's a Democrat, is the only candidate that actually has on his Facebook that he wants to fund more of ICE. Not even Bishop has that.
So
I think he took it down now. I have a screenshot, but I think he changed it.
Send me the screenshot, because I know that about him, and it totally enrages me, because part of my platform has been to go after the DHS, which was started after the Patriot Act, which has growing budgets, growing enforcement. Their whole job is threat inflation. Their whole job is to set your hair on fire about immigrants, about crazy voting, about intrusion into the grid, intrusion into the voting networks, and it's all because of the DHS cronies that want to sell you stuff. They want you afraid, and they want you to buy their stuff. So it's really a crony cesspool.
I would hope so. What I was going to say was, I could see Dan McCready opting out of almost all, except maybe one, just so that way he can say, "I've been on the campaign trail for 3 years." As he's trying to rewrite history. He's trying to give people the impression he's been campaigning forever. He hasn't. Everyone knows that. But there are some people that maybe have not been engaged that he's trying to convince. But I do think it would be beneficial for Dan Bishop to say, "All right, let me talk with you," and still get that time. But I thought that about Harris too, and then Harris decided not to.
Right.
So,
well,
that'd be very interesting.
I've spoken to Dan several times. I find him courteous and congenial and thoughtful guy. So I'd like to have a civilized discussion with him.
By the way, I found out this morning through one of my secret agents that there were some Democrats that actually endorsed Dan Bishop.
Really? Interesting.
We gotta find out. I didn't have him here.
I have never endorsed a Republican, but yet I am a Democrat in bad standing.
Well, so let's wrap up this District 9.
I just sent you the screenshot.
Okay, thank you,
everybody. It's right here.
Because we don't want to beat a dead horse here, but
we need to reinforce physical barriers with the technology.
You're just trying to set my hair on fire right here on camera, Ruth.
Improve and support.
You're so unfair.
You're mean.
You're being mean.
Oh
to
my
me.
God! And I have a circle.
Okay. Okay. So, any other things about the? I still believe that. And I think we've in general agreement that Stoney was really kind of more of a man of the people. And
we talked about it last week, remember?
And he did have the personal touch, and we really appreciate that in a politician. Stevie, the ramp model, she was very shrill. No. Stevie was the young
mother.
I just
Fayetteville that kept saying, "And God is gonna, I had my baby, and I survived it,
I remember.
and I just want, God bless America, thank you very much. I got 40,000 million Twitter followers, and I am the Republican version of AOC. Oh!
Yeah.
She was so freaking annoying.
Yeah, and McCrory of all people likes her. She's the one for him. McCrory, who claims that third parties steal major party votes. So, do you have any final comments on the District 9 before? Let's move on to our final topic today. We've got 15 minutes left, and this is kind of difficult, and it puts me in the state of mind where I don't know if people are going to check in on this subject because it's about tariffs.
Oh,
right?
Tara.
Tara, where it's about tariffs, right?
Tariffs.
Tariffs.
It's about the
Yes.
trade wars, and because this is an area of confusion for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I don't want to be in a position where I'm having to econ-splain, stuff about the international trade system, which is so. But let me start this off with one interesting little factoid. So imagine a map of Europe, and picture Spain and Africa, and Gibraltar. You know where the Rock of Gibraltar is. Well, it's at the.
Is that by Waxhaw?
No, it's at the mouth of the Mediterranean, and so that was an international trading point.
We're getting a history lesson, or a geographic lesson right here.
There's a city there called Tarifa.
Tarifa, that sounds.
So what do you think? What do you think happened?
The tariffs, the taxes. That's where they paid the taxes with transporting, exporting.
Basically,
Tell us, Jeff.
Pirates took over and started charging people tribute to come in and out.
Oh.
Wow.
Tarifa.
This show is about educating people, specifically our Latinx, English-speaking Latinx neighbors and their allies from 12 to 45. That's our targeted demographic, but we have a lot other people that watch this. And that is, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this is interesting because if you think like I
should
do,
have this sound.
If you think like
educational moment of the.
Or we'll show a little light bulb.
Yeah, the light bulb. That's right.
Well.
Oh, it looks like Teletubbies.
Not the purple Teletubby.
No, I totally lost my train of thought.
That showed our age that we know the Teletubbies.
That we know the purple Teletubbies. The gay purple Teletubby.
That's right. It was never gay.
It was never gay. It was questionable.
It was the questionable.
It was the question. It was the questioning Teletubby. That's right.
Yeah, I just went off topic. Do you remember that?
Okay, so back to Tarifa
Tarifa
near Gibraltar, which is where the pirates were extracting tribute from ships coming in and out.
Okay.
And so if you think of governments as I do, which is kind of gangsterish, as people that are trying to extract tribute from people.
Government is gangster.
For protection,
From New York?
You give us this amount,
and LA.
You give us this amount, and you can do business.
Yes.
So in that respect, the tariffs are not actually a bad form of raising money,
Okay.
especially internationally.
So was that your way of saying that you agree with the increase of tariffs? All right, I'm sure.
No.
Just educating us.
I'm just trying to set the groundwork for how we want to think about issues of tariffs because the thing is, if you think of an international system of trade where people want to do trade in other countries, and they're bringing goods over, and you don't know if they're going to be respecting your laws, or you don't know what's in the contract, what they're doing. That's a good way to raise money to enforce the contract and make sure that the deal goes the way it's supposed to go. Just like the mafia movies, right? And that's a reasonable way.
Something you can't refuse.
Right, so I'm actually supportive of that type of system.
Okay.
As a revenue raiser, in order to abolish the income tax, which I view as an intrusive surveillance tool.
We talked about that last week. That was a good point you made.
Right, and so when we think of tariffs and Trump's hostility and Xi Jinping's reaction, which just happened, I think, last 24 hours, right? We know that is disruptive in very many ways, right? We know it's disruptive of what they call the supply chain, you know, of all it's not just goods, but it's all the intermediate goods. It's what they call the means of production, right? So all of those prices are all of a sudden going all over the place, and people can't calculate. They can't figure out what it is that they need. So that's why we want to say, well, does it really have to be that crazy? Do we have to jack it up to 25 and then wait till they jack it up another 30, and then we, you know? So anyway.
So should we have it just at a is that our goal, to just have it at a certain amount?
My understanding is, and you may be a lot more updated with this, but the reason that President 45 has increased tariffs on China is to try to use that as leverage to renegotiate some trading things. Is that correct?
Well, that's right, and that's what I like at the Republican primaries. I had discussions with some people there, because stock market had crashed, and we were all sort of moaning, "Oh, our portfolios." But they said, "Don't worry, it's just temporary. He's trying to use it as leverage, and your 401 is going to go back up." And there's a long game here. We want to hit him hard, and what they don't get is he's taking my money and your money and discombobulating, distorting the economy in order to do something of very questionable value.
Okay.
And that's the way I view it.
Okay. Well, because I do think that my impression is with 45, one of the things that I agree with him on is he does seem, even though it doesn't come out that way, he does seem to be trying to do things that would help working class Americans. That's what he's saying.
That's right.
That he's trying to renegotiate NAFTA because it screws the union worker.
Right.
He's trying to renegotiate with China because they're ripping us off, and we have a trade deficit with them, and they're dumping cheap products onto our market, so that way we can't compete with soybeans and all kinds of. That's my understanding. And I think that seems good, smart thing to do. That take care of America type of thing. But with Trump, he always screws it up. It always comes across as
So
crazy.
there's two messages, right? One is our manufacturing base is eroding, and we want to improve it. And then the second thing is he involved in a real strategy? Is there really something behind that, or is he just intemperate and volatile, and he's just doing, there's some secret plan? So, and there are a lot of Republicans who believe this.
Okay,
who believe that he's got this secret genius. There's this whether it's a little Putin bobblehead doll or whatever.
I wish we could find some Republicans to come on the show that could look us in the eyes and say that Trump is a smart, genius guy. After knowing he lost $1 billion, he can't manage hotels. The stuff that comes out of his mouth
goes bankruptcy.
The stuff that comes out of his mouth is just crazy. No logical person would think of that.
Well, that's where people need to pay attention to what Scott Adams, the Dilbert cartoonist and author, talks about, because he talks about persuasion techniques and how persuasive. Like, he likes AOC because he thinks AOC
can persuade
is very persuasive. She exaggerates. She commits hyperbole. Some people are better at that than others. Most people don't expect me to engage in outrageous hyperbole. So when I do something like that, people are kind of surprised and taken aback, like, what? You're being a jerk. And
because you're not good at it, is that what you're trying to say?
I either need to get personally better at hyperbole as a means of persuasion, or I just am going to be locked into this. Let me explain how this is going to be for you. So anyway, so we don't know. That's the question about it.
Well, I have a question for you that I'm going into your segment. I'm sorry, but I was thinking about it.
Fine.
What you're saying,
and we got 5 minutes left.
Okay. What you're saying is that when you were here last week, you said that when you're running for office, you see the people running around you as possible coworkers.
That's right.
Right. Now, if they became a coworker with you, and if they did the stuff that Trump did, would you fire them? I'm setting you up for something here.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a. I'm not sure
Against
I understand.
the wall question.
So yeah, if coworkers are trying to gaslight me or whatever, and they're trying to be hyperbolic and exaggerating for effect, unless we're in a negotiation as a coworker.
But if they were that way every single day,
and
every time you went into a meeting, and then you had the opportunity to be the hire and fire manager, would you keep them on board? Probably not. I'm going to answer for you.
I wouldn't.
I'm trying to think of a reason why I would.
Exactly, that's my point. So my point is, why are we treating Trump any differently than we would a coworker?
Well, if there was a Republican who was brave enough to come here and sit with us and talk and answer some of these questions, they would probably say, well, he's trained in business. He's trained in negotiations. He wrote a book called Art of a Deal.
But he's not.
I know, but this is what they would say, and they would say, he's really good at that. He's really good at, talking about the direct. I'm doing the Beto here. About pushing it way out there.
I realized I was doing it with the wrong hand the other day.
It's both hands.
It's both hands.
It's both hands because you got to look at the right side. You got to look at the left side.
Okay.
And then you take it down.
So would you? So my point is that Trump has proven to be a buffoon. That's the only nicest thing I can call him, and I'm saying something nicer than what Republicans that I've met have called him.
Yeah. That's right. There's no never Trumper like a Republican.
Yes.
Angry never Trumper.
So what I'm saying is, don't you think we should treat him the same way that we would be treated if we did the same thing in our jobs, which is what he has as a job, and that is start the impeachment process. If we find something wrong, then he gets impeached. It goes to the Senate.
Yeah.
If we don't, it's just an investigation. But shouldn't we at least start to look at his conduct? We would do that in the same world.
Well, we've had.
I just don't. I know you said the only way you would do it is if it was something against our.
Well, if it's something
that something between Russia and the United States.
No. So the only way that I would support impeachment is that I thought he committed some act of war that was not authorized, that was way over the top, and so bombing Syria, was one of those acts.
But he's making it worse here in the United States for our citizens. That's worse than war.
But that's a different issue. There's what's an impeachable offense is not doing bad policy. Just because you're not fixing healthcare doesn't mean you can be impeached, and that because that's what the ballot box is for, right? Okay. So
you still don't think he should be impeached?
I don't think he should be impeached.
Can we at least start the impeachment process?
Well,
and then because impeachment is a political process.
It is a political process, and I'm actually deferring to Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she's just saying, look, we've been through this. There's a lot of people who want to take him down, but we've got we certainly have things that we need to do. We've got a legislative agenda, and she's trying to hold it all together. It would take the focus off of all of the things that they really do need to do, and I don't agree with all those things, but I agree with her working philosophy.
Well, I agree with her working philosophy too, but I think Nancy Pelosi is giving us less credit, giving the American people and giving Democrats specifically less credit than we should be getting. We can chew gum and walk at the same time. You can.
Well, that's fine.
For those of us who have actually managed employees, I can deal with a problem employee with HR, do everything I need to do, and still manage what I have to manage. You can do. It's like a parent with children.
Right.
You can deal with your problem child and still feed your good child at the same time.
Well, let me just make a strategic point, and then we'll try to wrap up the topic of
because we got 1 minute.
Tariffs. Yeah. So the strategic point is that Trump's ratings are very high because of the fizzling out of the Russia investigation and the fact that he's now Bob Barr has appointed somebody, and they're going to investigate the origins of it, perhaps the abuses of the FISA warrant, and the framing by the intelligence agencies. And part of my platform that is up on my website is, we do need to do an investigation into the power of the intelligence agencies.
Sure.
This has been one of my pet peeves for a long time, partly because I read spy fiction, but I also read other types of things about what the intelligence agencies are doing. So to wrap this point up about tariffs, part of it is Trump's personality. We don't like the fact that he can affect so many people with his bargaining. Republicans are sitting very uneasy on their seats right now, hoping that this plan works out.
And in the real world, and this is really all I'm messaging. Yeah. In the real world, in the world that we all live in, the world that we're all held accountable, whatever jobs that we have, whether you're working at Petco or you're managing hotels or you're in financial industry, in the real world you can be fired for having a terrible personality. It's called insubordination, and you don't have to have any reason. If you're a jerk, we can fire you. Yeah. Okay, you may have to have some documentation on how that impacts your morale, because what you've done is you've created a hostile work environment for the other employees. All I'm saying is that every single person, and this is where I see progressives and ALC as a champion a lot of anger from working class people of color, is that people of color who are working class don't have the same benefits as white people who are working class, because white people can be disruptive, can be like Trump, and they get away with it. A person of color says something that is
gets fired,
and they get fired. And so so we have to set an example. Trump has to be held accountable to the same way he would have held his employees in the hotels. If they created half as much of craziness as he created, they would have screwed him out the door. And so that's the reason I think we need to start the impeachment process, so that way we can let people know that no one is above the law, no personality, no character is above the law. And so for me, it's an equality issue for me. And I know that I agree with you that he will be held accountable in the election, but I do think when there are times where it becomes so abusive and so in your face that you just have to deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, what is that saying to all of the people in America that have to follow a different set of standards?
Hard to disagree with that, but I just
how's that snap?
Say it.
And and I've said this on the show before, that I don't actually listen to Trump's speeches. I mean, because I find his voice kind of annoying and his whole manner. So I tend to listen to people who.
So you have already fired him on your own.
I've already fired him. I've got him blocked on Twitter.
But every once in a while you have to listen to him. Like I hate listening to him.
I know you can't get away from it.
No, I listen to him because it's so stupid. I heard him like on a rally and stuff, and he says stuff. It's like something's wrong with his brain. It's like, so anyway, and it's like it's all over the place, and it hurts your brain. I look at the people that are going yay, and I go,
it's not logic. It's not logic.
It's like being in a wrestling.
Guys, it's 11.
It's primal and it's persuasive.
Oh,
do we want to read something from the Constitution today?
It's a really long one.
Oh no, maybe we should go redo a short one.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just talk about the First Amendment in honor.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
In honor of Julian Assange, who is in Belmarsh.
Also.
And it's very depressing if you read some of the rumors of what is could be happening to him there. So, what page?
It is page 21.
21.
Thank you. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. We're going to go out with, tell us what you're going to be doing the next couple of days. We're going to listen to a little Pandora. Are we going to listen to like Depeche Mode?
Alexa, play Depeche Mode radio.
So Chris, where are you going to be in the next couple of days?
I have family that's coming to visit once again, but also this Friday, Bernie Sanders, who I endorsed as a 2016 congressional candidate, I endorsed him over Hillary Clinton, and I'm still getting flack from the Hillites. He will be in town in Charlotte here this Friday. He'll also be in Asheville, I believe.
After 2 years, then we win.
Yes, that's right. And so please, if you have not seen Bernie Sanders, sign up to come and see Bernie Sanders here in Charlotte, and then so you can make your decision on 2020. I'm still a Bernie bro, but of course I'm open to all of the candidates that are running, like Julio Castro and stuff like that.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Better.
That's right. Yeah.
So Ruth, where are you going to be?
I have a full agenda this week. I'm on my way to the lunch right now. Tomorrow, Thursday, I'm doing an intentional movement at Reedy Creek from 4:30 to 6:30. And on Friday, I have a luncheon from the Red Cross. I have police awards this weekend. And hopefully I can make it to Bernie Sanders. And I'll let y'all know over the weekend next Wednesday.
I am going to be on the coast. I'm going to Oak Island. My niece is getting married.
Oh, congratulations.
And so it should be a lovely little wedding there. So I'm
Nice gateway.
doing family stuff. My website is up. I'm going to start doing some videos, maybe do one this morning to post on it. I want to thank my web developer who did a great job. And see you next week where Ruth will be head of the pirate ship and will take over from us motor mouths. Thank you, Ruth. Bye-bye.
Bye.